David, just on that and about the story we've seen this morning about Mickey Harte presumably being behind the idea to narrow the pitch in Healy Park this weekend. Like, you always have these cliches about we'll just worry about ourselves and the opposition can worry about themselves. But when it comes to Dublin, you have to worry about them and you have to try everything you possibly can in the playbook to try and stop them influencing the game. And that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, they probably can widen it, but they definitely probably can't. They can't lengthen it. You'd be wanting to put Stephen Cluckton's goal somewhere down on the M1. Never mind stuck in the middle of at the end line in Oma. Yeah, you've got to have a little bit of everything, and with the whole. And I agree with Brian. You can't gamble just on upsetting their kickouts, because if you upset their kickouts, that's, what is it, that 4 or 5 kickouts out of 22, 23? Maybe you're going to get 7, which is a massive day. But again, on the other 15 or 16 that you don't win, Dublin then will do you damage. And from a Tyrone perspective, they'd rather be more defensively set up. And I have to say, the way they have, I think Stephen O'Neill has a major part probably to play in it this year. But the way Tyrone set up, they'd be more comfortable defensively rather than offensively pushing up on the Dublin kick-out. And in a game that is 70 minutes, you know as a player when you need to and when your manager wants you. Take for Galway, for example. Galway, people are saying, oh yeah, they're defensively. It's all a mindset. But what Galway do, and they've done it against Mayo, they've done it against Roscommon, and they did it against Kerry. It's nearly guaranteed to the minute. On the 45th or 46th minute, there's a whole mental change in the way Galway set up. And that's what Tyrone need, that you actually put the big press on. You do something that you haven't been doing for 3/4 of the game, and you put the team you're playing on the back foot. And that's what I have to say Galway have done fantastically well. And they did it against Kerry again last weekend, and Tyrone do that in certain times, in certain situations in games. They change completely from what they've done for 20-25 minutes, and they'll do it for a 5 or 10 minute period. And it's there's no other word for it. It is fascinating to see what is going to happen, but do not be surprised if we see the same result as we've been seeing, that Dublin will be under pressure for 20-25 minutes. There will be some part or semblance of a game, and all of a sudden then after 55 minutes it's tweetering out, because they're capable at any time. And it's not just one person, it's not just the old guard. The new guard are the likes of Brian Howard, Scully. These guys can turn it on as well, and it's a daunting task, but there's a little bit of a question mark in the Dublin players' mindset. What's it going to be like? You can win All Irelands no matter what you want. You can win 4 or 5 in a row, but it's going to Healy Park in Oma for a championship game in July. It's a whole different world, and it's a good challenge for Dublin.
Yeah. How much will last year's encounter focus in on the Tyrone minds? Like, I'm not sure in your occasion, like say the 2004 All-Ireland final, how much would that have been in your minds going to the 06 All-Ireland final against Kerry? Does it play any part at all?
It doesn't play a single part in your mind. But if you're in that situation again,
that's when it appears.
That's when it appears, and you go, shit.
Okay.
Here it is again. And it brings you back to where you were, whether it's 12 months ago or 2 years ago. It's only when you maybe find yourself in that situation, and if I can't see Tyrone being unable to lay a hand or put in an absolute, what you'd call a tackle on any Dublin player for 22 or 23 minutes. The reality is, and would you have the first tackle before the ball is thrown up? You wouldn't be surprised, but I can't see that happening. I can't see them being as limp as they were last year. There's some new guys on this Tyrone team that for me have kind of changed the whole spectrum of it.
Who are they?
I like Myler, Sean Myler. For me, and I just Connor Myler. That's it. Number 12, right half forward. I watched him for probably 60 minutes last Saturday evening. solid. And it was fascinating the fact that he picked up Enda Smith for, I'd say, 59 of them 60 minutes. He was automatically, he uses legs in great effect as well, because he had Smith. Because automatically, when you have a man that is not supposed to be marking you, you automatically have to be cognizant of him then, what he is doing. Now, the only bit of space that Smith got, he got a goal from it. But then Conor Myler came back and returned it with pleasure. But he stuck to him. And I know Mickey Hart has said that for him, he is the new Brian Doerr. But he put in some amount of work. And he did not give Enda Smith 1 inch. After about 15 minutes, I did say to myself, honestly, what you'd want now is probably bring Smith into the full forward line.
Yeah.
And if he's going to follow him in. And again, you have a certain height mismatch. The only time Conor Myler didn't mark Smith was for the kick out. But once that ball was in the air, it was an automatic switch.
Who do you put Myler on this weekend then?
There's not enough Mylers. That's the problem. There's not enough Mylers this weekend.
It's starting to seem like Brian Howard is that guy you need to man mark because he's so influential. Obviously, Kieran Kilkenny is the obvious example, but Howard's influence is just growing game by game, especially when it comes to the kickouts. Yeah,
I'd put him on Brian Fenton, because you're not going height for height, because you have your midfielder is going to contest 1-to-1 on the kickouts, but after that, I would look at putting Myler on the likes of Brian Fenton to match him for his athleticism and probably to nullify his contribution. Even though Howard had something like 35 possessions last weekend, which is phenomenal.
Insane.
Yeah, insane. But again, he's one of the new guys that you would expect a bit of a weakness on. But I would definitely put the likes of Myler, and you'll see it on Fenton.
This is from Cara O'Kane's Twitter account, how he expects the teams to set up. So Myler there on Howard is what he's going for as well. You think on Fenton. So I guess if you put Myler on Fenton, suddenly Matty Donnelly as an offensive weapon becomes activated.
Yeah,
which is big.
And again, Sean Kavanagh spent probably 85% of his time, or Cullum spent 85% of his time in the full back line.
Yeah,
his own full back line. So who takes Macaulay? And the big conundrum that Dublin have always had is who takes Hart. And Hart he's been non-existent against Dublin because they have totally nullified him. And again, you can see Small doing that because he's top class. Jack McCaffrey's a lot more left of him. Sludden.
That's a great battle, Sludden against McCaffrey.
Massive, absolutely massive. And it's because Sludden is, you know what they've 744 scored in 2 games or something. It's
incredible stuff.
It's not incredible in the context of things, but it's incredible coming from a team that have struggled in the last couple of years. Now we're in the middle of July and they're still doing it, and you have to give them the credit for it. I would have been one that have said, you know what, over the years that Tyrone, they were built up to be something that they weren't. But the reality is that they're playing Dublin now.
Yeah,
they're playing one of the top 3 teams. You wouldn't have ranked Roscommon in that. They didn't will Ulster. This is their greatest test, and they couldn't ask for a better place to have it in Omagh.
Just one last thing on this game. Like Tommy was mentioning that about the Dublin throw-in and almost a set play from the off. At the start of each half, the ball is thrown in and Dublin go for goal straight away. They've got a set move. Like, is this something new to you? I'm not sure if you've ever encountered that where a manager has actually kind of plotted it out almost like a soccer coach would plot out a corner.
We were doing it 20 years ago. And you would, because the reality is, you don't know what's going to transpire in a lot of games. But from a Gaelic football context, from the very first second that this ball is going to be thrown up, there's going to be 6 guys to your left, 6 guys to your right. How do you create an opportunity?
What did you do?
If you practice, well, we always had sometimes you'd always be cognizant that if one guy is going up, the other guy goes defensively, because you don't want to be caught flat-footed and your 2 midfielders,
An 8-on-6.
And you have an 8-on-6, so you're saying, if they do win it, tap it down to my right, or tap it down to your right, I'll be there. But if there's someone that does want it, you're going, well, offensively, you're setting up straight away. You're not giving them a 20-yard or 25, and 2 midfielders left behind, and two wing backs, or 2 wing backs shooting forward. Now again, you'd walk through this. No, first you talk it, then you walk it, and then you try and do it, not even for real. And this, you might be doing this 100 times. Same as your line balls. Same as if you have a line ball from the 20-yard line, your own 20-yard line in, you do something.
Yeah.
Everybody knows it. If it's between the 20 and midfield, there's set plays, and it's you know what, it's opportunities, and that's what good managers say. We know that we will have these opportunities in every single game. Let's do them right. It's not always about getting a score, but if you know what you're doing before you do it, you're halfway there.
Yeah, who's going to win that game?
Dublin. Yeah, I still completely. I loved Paul Flynn coming on, scoring 2 points. As a man said to me, Jesus, I thought he was retired. And you're going, he's just been injured, like for,
Yeah.
He's not, and
he looks good.
Yeah, he looks good. They still have the players, because now it's getting serious, and you don't want to be any other place in the world. I don't care if you play for Dublin or anyone else. You don't want to be on the bench. You want to make an impression. And even the likes of Merchant coming on the last day specifically to go to match up with McHugh, you go, anyone can be used, and it keeps the Dublin players on their toes. When Jim Gavin can bring and introduce players, the like the Howards, the Scullys, Jack Mack is back. It's competitive, and everyone is trying to do the best. Where I would say that a lot of other teams don't have that competitive in-house, and it makes a lot of the players stale. Yeah,
they seem to have somebody for every sort of eventuality that might occur throughout the game. Just on the Group 1 games then, Monaghan against Kerry is probably the standout fixture of the weekend. It's 4 o'clock in Clones on Sunday. Do Kerry start Kieran Donaghy this weekend?
No, not a monkey's chance. I seen the boys were saying, you do not, like, how he wasn't used the last day is beyond me.
Yeah.
And he's not injured, we know that. Because you have a perfect... It reminded me so much of the All-Ireland, the last All-Ireland, the Kerry one. It was like the conditions, the zip. It was made for Donaghy for 20-25 minutes. But then again, it's made because it doesn't matter. I don't know, his handling skills and his fielding ability, it doesn't create a kind of fear in a defensive system, but you have to mitigate against what he can do for you and against you. And if he was even in there, it would have pushed defensively back your defensive line, and it would get a lot more freedom to the half-forward line that didn't really perform.
Yeah, but you wouldn't start him this weekend?
No, and I don't see the need to start him because, like, the night, I don't know, is it the Kerry way, like, and when we lose a Mayo, and some of the greatest mistakes in GAA management have been made across the years, and it's all look as grand. Kerry lose one game, and it's the knives are out. The players are being questioned. The management is being questioned. There's a gun to their head. They have tradition on their shoulders, and does that bring the best out of players? It'll bring a game out of you, and. Look, the pressure is on Kerry. But the one thing I have said right from the start for this Super 8 series is take it from a context, and I do think Kerry will win. And I actually think they'll win, not comprehensively, but I can see a 6 or 7 point.
Really?
Yes, I can. Because if Monaghan go back, and they have done it time and time again, they have retreated from what their fluidity and the way they've played up to the big teams. Now, more often than not, against the likes of the Dublins of this world. But they change their style when they come up against the bigger teams, and I don't think it suits them to go into more defensive. Like I remember watching the game, and I think it was Tyrone in a quarter final, was it? Yeah, and like Conor McManus spent the vast majority of his time in his own half back line. But I think Kerry will benefit, And these young guys need time, and they need games. Now, they've got the games, and will have the games in the Super 8. Someone said to me there last week, they need 2 years to bring these guys around. In the next 6 weeks, they'll have more games played. They'll have as many if they get to a semi-final and a final as they would have in 2 years of championship
football. So you think survival, basically, and then they'll come out the other end looking a lot better?
Survive, confidence, question, and get certain things right. I don't think they're the dying animal that a lot of people are making them out to be. I think there's a kick left in this Kerry team, and I think there's a kick left in Eamon Fitzmaurice as well. And again, I honestly think that it's going to be when we look back on Sunday evening, on Monday evening, we'll be in here and we'll be talking about a positive Kerry win, and it just opens it up. Like when in GA history has a team lost 2 games in the championship and still been in the championship? You know, likes of your Kildares, your Roscommons, they've lost 2, they're still in the championship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting to put it that way, you know.
It was a funny atmosphere, a funny. You don't know, was it do or die, or just do, and we can die next week, because that's what it felt like last weekend. It was surreal.
Yeah, we'll come back to the 2 other games that we haven't spoken about in a little while. Just one last word on Monaghan. Then, obviously, like, you're heavily favouring Kerry in this one. Like, what are Monaghan going to do from what you've seen over the past couple of years in terms of playing up to their opposition, as you mentioned?
I think like they have their number one strength is like this core group of players know each other inside out. Like it's from the numbers like that have, from a panel perspective, it hasn't changed vastly in the last 7 or 8 years. And again, Malachy O'Rourke is for me. I would rate him in the top 2 GA managers in the country, without a doubt. He doesn't get enough recognition for it, but there's going to be, like Conor McManus, it's going back to the old saying, hammer the hammer. He will be a key focus from a Kerry perspective. I liked the way, and he's an age. Vinnie Corey used a massive amount of experience last weekend when it came, you know, down to the crunch with Kildare. Their experience and their know-how came through, and that's going to be vital in the closing stages of a game if it's tight in Clonus. But I just think that the likes of James O'Donoghue, like I think he was taken off after 50 minutes,
something like that.
He was taken. The same happened last year towards the end of the championship.
Yeah, well, he was dropped for the Mayo game. Yeah. The Mayo replay.
Yeah, and you're going to yourself, now there's a time and a place when you have to bring your football back, and it's going to be because he has transgressed so much compared to, he was the main talisman. Conor McManus, day in, day out, produces some form of brilliance. Yeah. But he takes so much there's such a focus on him from the opposition. Now, do teams worry about James O'Donoghue? I don't think. I still think there's a lot of football left at him. And again, Clifford, 1-3 last weekend. He's the saving grace from a Kerry perspective last weekend. But there's a lot more. And look at everyone. All the Kerry boys are named them. Paul Geaney, David Moore. They need to be. Their heads are on the block, and it's tradition down there that the main players have to step up to the front. But it's going to be an intriguing weekend, and I just feel that there's a bite left in this Kerry team, or 1 or 2 bites.
Yeah, well, you may well be right. We will talk about the other 2 games, the games involving Newbridge and the games involving Dr. Hyde Park in a little while. We're going to turn to cycling and catch up with Barry Ryan in just a moment. But before that, we've got an interview with former Cork star Daniel Goulding coming up next week. And here is a short clip, and he doesn't see the Dubs facing many problems in their quest for 4 All-Ireland titles in a row. Who's going to win the All-Ireland?
I think Dublin still will win it. I think unless they're coasting at the moment, I don't think they've got out of second gear. The only fear I'd have for them is that if they stay in second gear a day, that they can't up it because they get caught. But I just think they've just too much quality at the moment. You see their bench come in, it's frightening.
Yeah.
Jim Gavin seems to have this set up now where he has everyone champing at the bit to get in. No, it'll be interesting up in Omagh. It'll be a different kind of game, something they're not used to. But even if they were to lose that game, they're still going to be an All-Ireland semi-final in Croke Park.
You'd imagine so.
I'd imagine, look, at the end of the day, they're still going to be very